What's up, military millionaires? I'm your host, David Pere, and I'm here with my co-host, Alex Felice, who sometimes just hosts and I get stuck in the back burner, but we'll see what happens this episode. Hugh is our guest today, Mr. Hugh Carnahan, with a mustache that actually makes mine look kind of pathetic because he's got like the wax, French twisty thing going on. But Hugh and I have been friends now for about a year and a half. We met I guess Facebook, whatever, but he reached out, met at the coffee shop. He's kind of one of those stories Alex always talks about, people he met that turned out super a good investment to talk to. I did not have time to meet Hugh on the day that he hit me up. And I was like, okay, man, if you can make it here between this time and this time, I got this like a 20-minute slot. And we hung out for like 20 minutes and we've been friends now for about a year and a half. And probably going to do some deals together. We work out of the same market and gone over to his house, got hammered drunk and hung out with him a few times. And what Hugh did was the first deal that he ever did was 26 houses in a portfolio deal. And I remember thinking that this guy was nuts, and he turned around and did very well with it. And since then he's bought a hotel, a small apartment complex. I think there's a laundromat in there. Hugh's done a little bit of everything. And so this is cool because, now he's got like 30 doors, 14 months later, he's using other people's money. He's quit his W-2. He's going full time. And he's doing that because he's got a lot of crazy systems that he does the 2-second lean thing. He's extremely well systemized. So this is going to be a lot of fun. So Hugh, welcome to the show. Welcome to the Military Millionaire Podcast, where we teach service members, veterans, and their families how to build wealth through personal finance, entrepreneurship, and real estate investing. I'm your host, David Pere, and together with my co-host, Alex Felice, we're here to be your no BS guides along the most important mission you'll ever embark on, your finances.
Vehicle 1, you're clear to depart friendly lines.
Roger, Vic 1, Oscar Mike.
I'd recommend don't buy 26 houses at once if you don't know what you're doing. It's bad. Can be bad.
How did that first deal go for you?
In the end, it ended up okay. At the very beginning, I studied, I read all the books, I listened to all the Bigger Pockets podcasts, and my strategy was burn. And then came across a portfolio loan and was like, oh, can I actually do this? And I was like, well, it'd be kind of traditional. You put 20% down, bank maybe put 25% down and buy everything at once. Well, the couple that I was like, oh, there's a nice couple retiring. And I'll take over their loans or I'll take over their portfolio. But really what happened was they're like, oh, we're really tired of all these garbage properties that are a huge pain, D properties in D areas. We're just going to sell all those off. And I was the dumb guy who bought them all. So went traditional and then figured out really quickly how to rehab houses and, dealing with property managers and people on drugs, all that good stuff. And then eventually was able to burr out of them 10 months later and got all my money back and did something different.
Do you still have that property now?
I still have all of the properties. Yeah.
Do they run better now than when you bought them?
1,000%. So they're extremely deferred maintenance. When I picked them up, they're all crack houses basically. And going in, I still haven't had a bathroom where I didn't have to gut the entire bathroom, soft floors, all that good stuff. But I actually listened to your show, Alex, with going in, targeting small 2-1s. In my area, the numbers seem to work about the same. 2-1s, they're cheaper to work on, cheaper to flip, brought it up to market value, bumped rent from like $400 to $700. And it was able to eventually burr back out of them. So.
Let me ask you a question. When you bought that place that they didn't want, I'm glad you got out of it because sometimes people sell things that they don't want because they can't be turned around. Sometimes it's their fault. It sounds like it's their fault, and that's a good. I'm happy for you, but I want to ask you a question. Did you buy was it a D class property when you bought it, or was it a C minus because nobody claims they ever owned a D class?
Oh, there were F properties in D neighborhoods or C neighborhoods. I definitely own my nicest house was a C. I think solid C.
So, I bought my last 24 unit. It took me about a year and a little bit. I could do it faster now, but I didn't know what I was doing. Sounds familiar. I bought it with low quality tenants, and they had gotten away with too much shit too long. And so going in there and like trying to like right the ship, what I realized is you got to get rid of them. And what you have to do is you have to change the culture of the neighborhood.
Yes.
Is that something you experienced?
Yeah. So I actually have an interesting story with that first portfolio. So all the tenants, the moment their lease was up, like it was done. Like we would move them out and go in and try to rent over the place. And I was like cash flowing like month to month, like trying to pay my contractor and like selling guns and but like, here, man, here's some money. Let's keep that going. But at the end of one time, one of the houses, this was probably like midsummer, it was like 6 months after I had them. I noticed that I ran comps for rent in the area and comps on ARV. And I had 4 houses on the same street and I was my own comp. And I was like, oh, I was in my own comp 3 times. I was like, whoa, I'm comping against myself. I bought this whole, like, well, I was in the whole neighborhood, but like I have 4 houses in the neighborhood. I own the nicest 4 houses in the block. And it's right next to a school. And the city, like, well, they're hard to deal with anyways, but they're also like, oh, but someone's coming in and cleaning up the neighborhood. So it was kind of cool to see that. I just didn't expect, it wasn't a plan. I was just like, whoa, all my comps are me. And that was kind of cool. I was like, I'll set my prices high for rent.
That's the value of scale, right? If you own the whole neighborhood, if you know, it's like now you set the market price. Right. I had no idea that was not planned. I was like, whoa, this is. How did you pay for it? This first 28 unit portfolio?
So when I was a dependo, I had a corporate America job. And part of the job was like, I got less salary, but they gave me stock options. And then I left that job when I got my divorce and moved. And I just had stock for this company that I didn't forget about it, but I never like invested in it. So I just left it alone. And then one day I checked and I was like, holy crap, I have like $221,000 worth of stuff, mainly because the stock went up. And I was like, oh, okay, I want to do something with it. But I set a limit order, I sold, and I was like, oh, now I owe taxes. So I only have $170,000 to do stuff with. And I was to buy solar panels. And so the solar panel guy was like, you should buy real estate and have that pay for your electricity. So that's how I got started.
So the solar guy talked you into it.
The solar guy taught me. He was a Bigger Pockets member, and he was like, "There's this thing called Bigger Pockets, and you shouldn't buy my solar panels. You should buy real estate."
Worst solar salesman ever.
He was like, he was the owner of the company too.
Oh.
He's like,
I can't believe how impressionable you are. You just one ding dong, one vendor comes up to you. You know, a few years ago, I had a guy come fix my garage door, and he told me to buy Bitcoin, and that's the point I knew not to buy Bitcoin. You're like, let me go get $170,000 worth of it.
Can we just point out though, if you had bought Bitcoin a few years ago?
Yeah.
I mean, hindsight.
Well, he told me when it was at 20 and then it crashed to $5,000.
All right, yeah. Okay. So yeah, maybe not. Maybe not the right time probably not the right time to get into Bitcoin.
Now it's 50.
Yeah.
I wouldn't
get in right now either. And people are like, it's going to 400. I'm like, yeah, maybe, but maybe not. So
years.
Oh, yeah,
so the initial money that came from the stocks, I sold those. I didn't know what to do. They like literally just sat in the money market account, and I just didn't know what to do with it. And then I was looking for investments, and then I came across BP effectively. And when I bought traditional. So it was the same thing, same concept as if a house was $100,000 and it was, I put $20,000 down. Only I put like $200,000 down. I borrowed some money from family members to go in. And what made it appealing to me was, despite not knowing anything, I listened to what Brandon Turner said, which was run numbers. And it was like a 1.58% rule. And I was like, well, this doesn't make any sense. Like I had someone has to buy this, so it should be me. And then I just kind of tried it. You know, oh, we'll figure it out. Jump out of the plane and build the parachute.
So from that lesson, going forward, are you looking for more or less risky properties?
I'd say, had I not done that, I wouldn't know what not to look for or what to avoid, because I didn't have enough experience. There are plenty of deals houses I own just like it they come up that I can walk into a house and in like 20 seconds be like, like 3-4 minutes walking around, stopping under the windows, and I'll be like, this is a X dollar reno. It looks horrible, but it's actually super great. Same thing, I can go into a nice looking house and be like, whoa, like joists there's something funky going on. I want to completely avoid it. I would not be where I am now without those lessons of dealing with 26 crack houses and trying to reno them while getting screwed by contractors.
Right, but are you looking for more crack houses, or are you looking for higher quality assets going forward?
It just doesn't make any sense to not do the smaller houses. In my market, there's a section of town that's kind of sketchy, and everywhere else in town, you'll be cash flowing at the end of the day. If that's your strategy, you'll cash flow like $50 or $70. But in my part of town, I can cash flow like 150 to 200, 250 with an infinite cash on cash return, with pulling out like 20 grand.
Right, but you got to deal with a more difficult tenant.
Well, after you rehab it, you don't have to deal with a difficult tenant. It's just it's a smaller community, so people will live kind of where. I don't know. I think our area doesn't really have like machine gun fire and stuff. It's not like gang activity. It's more like drugged out areas. Meth, lots of meth.
Yeah, meth is a good word to describe the part of town you're talking about.
So like normal people, blue collar folks live in those areas, and as long as the product you provide is nice and safe, they'll charge market rents, because market rents have gone up pretty much everywhere. So you can price out the tenants, and people are willing to live in those D-class neighborhoods, because there's not very much neighborhoods to live in if you want to be in town. You can go out of town and get all kinds of big stuff, land and whatever, but then you're driving into work. No one around here wants to do that.
I like the whole owning 4 houses on one street, right? And I've bought houses in similar neighborhoods, but you don't necessarily own 4 houses on a street. But it's kind of cool when you think of, like, people always want to try to get in on a neighborhood that's gentrifying, right? But I mean, if you had the scalability to do it, you could theoretically gentrify your own neighborhood if you were just focusing in on a small area. And I know I've got friends who have 100, 200 properties, and they'll keyhole in on one zip code. And then it's like, yeah, okay, your first few deals might not be as good as the next few going forward, but you're building your own like comps, your own rentals, your own culture in that area. It's easier said than done, right? But I mean, it's kind of like the guys who, I think it was Detroit, where people were going in and they were literally just buying entire city blocks at one point, and then they would just renovate the entire city block. It's like, well, at some point, like,
smart move.
You can turn a crappy neighborhood around very quick if you own the whole thing. It's just an interesting concept a lot of people don't think of, because they think of like one house at a time, which is great. But if you can kind of scale that in your area, you're able to exponentially increase your returns. Or you get like Alex's neighborhood, where the entire market just decides, like the entire country is like, you know what, we're going to invest there. And then Alex is like, great, I'm glad I was holding these properties, because the market just renovated under me.
And there was like, you know what, my strategy is this, and this is exactly where I'm at. And people came and did that.
Yeah, people came in 2017 to Fayetteville in droves, drove the prices up, and then kind of really knocked me out, because I'm not willing to pay some. I mean, I call it right now, to buy in my market, you have to compete with stupid, and God forbid you win. And then in 2019, I think the bubble started for everybody. I think now definitely prices are not all of them. I mean, I'm still buying deals, but being very, very cautious.
Conservative. Yeah, I'm paying no
more
than
70%. And to be fair, after I did that interview where I told everybody to come to Fayetteville, I changed my strategies. I haven't bought a single family rental since 2019.
Oh, well, so for me, going through all the things to kind of answer your question is, if I'm going to be in the single family space, I'm going to target the small properties. So it sounds like similar to your strategy because the numbers just made sense. But it was so much work that if it's like it's the same work to do a commercial property or something, and you get so much bigger return. And then the other thing that I like is you control that. If you have systems, they're valued off of cap rates, which is the cash flow that it generates. It's like a little business. So if you can make the business run better, then the property's worth more. As opposed to single families, like, you put in the granite countertops and the new bathrooms, but every other house in your neighborhood was $50,000. So your house is $55,000. Congratulations. So I'm trying to shift towards that because it seems easier and there's more control over how you're valued. Because with the BRRRR strategy, right, I like to go in and try to force appreciation. I don't like gambling on appreciation. I try to buy somewhere where I can do something to it to make it worth more.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, next crazy investment. Oh, sorry.
Say again?
No, you're good.
No, you go.
Oh. I just said, all right, next crazy investment, because I know Hugh jumped into another wild one right after that.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So at 1030, or I didn't 1031, I BRRRR'd out, had the cash flow on the side, and about that time, I have a policy that anyone who interacts with me and does business with me, I have a very big abundance mindset. Everyone wins. I give referrals. If they're on my core four, like I'm going to do everything I can to get them business, even though like I'm just starting out, like I'm just some new guy. And then like go and help them out with their businesses and try to make them run efficient. So my a broker approached me and was like, hey, there's this apartment complex coming up for sale. You should check it out. And then it ended up being a motel, a gas station, and a commercial unit, like a 9-unit commercial warehouse space. And so I didn't know how I was going to take that down. So I approached a few folks and got OPM and bought everything, took everything down. It was basically they were selling it for the cost of the land, but it was cash flowing like $24,000 a month and being run really poorly while it was cash flowing that much. Or sorry, not cash flowing, sorry. Generating $24,000 a month income from the property. So based off of that, they were already selling it under the 1% rule for a commercial property. And the seller's expectation was whoever buys this is going to tear it down and build a Wendy's on it or something like that. So we took it down and I just turned and was in charge of operations. So I get 50-50 split cash flow and I get 25% equity with 0% down on my part. And it came with a laundromat. I was like, we have coin laundry also apparently. So we had to figure that out, which was expensive.
Yeah. So, and then you turned the operations of this hotel around though. And so now Hugh's got this thing that he's effectively doubled in value, if not more, actually. I'm curious, just like how you go from single family portfolio. Like, what were some of the things that you realized needed to change to operate essentially a hotel and a laundromat?
So my background is in manufacturing. So I have lean manufacturing as a background skill set. And lean is the art of processes and, all kinds of, making things efficient. But none of that matters. I subscribe to something called 2-second lean, which doesn't focus on process. It focuses on developing people, training people well, giving them the tools they need, empowering them to make the change and doing that. So when we bought the motel, it came with, 2 or 3 employees, 2 employees that used to run the old operation. And I was able to come in, step in and just start doing intel gathering, like how's rent collected, like all these things, and just try to figure it out. For residential, I had my property manager, do everything. I have a core 4, and I basically said, followed the long distance real estate investing and basically didn't do anything myself. Well, with this, I stepped in and said, as far as the hotel operations go, which I know nothing about, and I also didn't really study much about, you just go in and do simple stuff like, hey, you shouldn't have trash all over the parking lot, or like simple things like that, turning things around, fast internet, and running it efficiently is really what doubled it because it's valued at the cap rate. So we bought it for $2.6 million. And then we increased the revenue and dropped the expenses per month. And because of that, the cap rate turned around and made it like a $6.2 million property after operating it for 3 months. And the expenses we got rid of were permanent. And we gave everyone a raise and brought on another employee. So we increased some expenses, but decreased them majorly. The people felt appreciated and they run it for me, which is kind of similar to the core 4 strategy, right? You have the people that are specialists do it. In this case, I'm just training them, setting guidelines and saying, operate within these parameters, go. And trust.
How did you pay for that building?
Which one?
3.2 million. So you needed to come up with what? 1.5?
It was 2.6 when we bought it.
2.6. Okay.
And I got it. It was 100% OPM.
Oh.
So
Jesus.
Someone saw me and was like, what did this guy do? He's going to lose his ass. He just bought 26 houses, doesn't know what he's doing. And then stumbled through that, but it looks good on the outside. And then got all my money back out and was ready to go into the deal with it. And they were like, you know what? Don't even worry about it. We'll go in. We'll see let's see what you got, basically. So I negotiated 25%. To them, they didn't care. They were someone who buys land all the time. And so they're like, okay, well, in the worst case, we'll tear all the buildings down and I'll have the land to, sell to Wendy's in the future or Home Depot or something. But that was basically OPM came in.
So basically what you're saying is you have no good advice for our listeners, just get lucky.
I don't know anyone that would just trust people with that. I think it's try things.
Oh, just try things.
What's up, guys? Today I wanted to stop and sponsor my own podcast by myself, which is a little cheesy, to tell you about the course that I'm launching called From Zero to One, Real Estate Investing for Beginners. Now, this is not a course to help you get rich fast. This is not a course to promise you to make $1 bajillion, but this is the course that will help you get from 0 rental properties to 1 rental property. It is designed to get you through your first purchase. Everything you need to know to get you through that step, with support from myself, obviously via email and whatever, so that we can talk and I can help answer some of those questions for you. And it is extremely affordable right now because I'm launching it for only $97, which, given the amount of content in there and the testimonials I got from the people who tested it beforehand, I am super on the low end for that price, but I'm going to probably have to bump it up in a little while. But for now, to test the waters and see exactly how many people I'm able to help with this, I want it to be extremely affordable because I want to help service members and veterans get their feet in the water. So if you are interested in learning about rental properties and you just want to learn how to get your first one, and then there are some bonus episodes in there to help you advance past that. But if you really just want to know everything you need to know to buy your first property without screwing yourself over, this is the course for you. Go ahead and check it out. The link will be down below in the show notes. And back to your episode.
When people see you put your money where your mouth is, and go after and do things instead of just keyboard commandoing it, going out, turning stuff, when you can have in-depth conversations about things and you can run numbers and show what is possible, it is, it's good. I mean, get lucky could be absolutely, luck's certainly a part of it, but luck is when preparation meets opportunity. So if you're always prepared, when opportunities comes up, jump on it.
I'm just fucking with you. You know that, right?
I think the piece here that sticks out for listeners, and I'm not going to tell them to go and buy what you bought in either case, because that's a ridiculously crazy first deal that paid off very well, but risk. But I think the idea that I would try to impart with listeners from this is to understand that It's like what I was talking about the other day, like going all in, right? Like if you had gone into that 26 unit portfolio, gotten, sick, like cold feet halfway through it, or realized what you got into and started trying to sell houses off as junk as you went in, you would have had nowhere near the success that you've had now. And honestly, like if you didn't have some kind of go all in mentality, you wouldn't have ever pulled the trigger on it in the first place. And it's kind of like the mentality of like people trying to, in like a cartoon or whatever, trying to jump over a cliff, like jump a gap. And it's like the only person who ever makes it is the person who gives it 100%, right? The person who hesitates or holds back or whatever. So I don't know if I'm trying to like really circle the wagons here to make this point, but in essence, just the thing that like on both of these, you went all in 100%, you trusted what you knew and you asked questions about what you could have done and you figured it out. And a lot of people would have just never even, like, neither of those is a deal that's like, oh yeah, this is perfect, let's go for it. They take guts, but you went through, you pulled through on it because you stuck with it.
Well, I think actually, so I decided to do it. So I took action, but they're always saying making a decision is more important than what decision you make, which is mostly correct. And not always the case. But I mean, to Alex's point, a big one was I jumped in not knowing what I'm doing, but I did it. And I heavily leveraged the experience of, my core four, people who have been there and done that before, who are veterans. I'd say it's no different than, let's say, a butter bar coming in, jumping in and having a bunch of senior NCOs that are like, hey, we've been here for 20 years. Like, you can kind of make high level decisions, and we've got the experience when you have, to fill in the gaps when you have no idea what you're talking about. And so I think that's I just tried something. I tried it and leveraged other people. I couldn't do it myself. I still can't do it myself. I'll continue to not do it myself, and I prefer it that way because I'm lazy. So going in and being hungry, showing that you are giving value to them, whoever it may be, taking the business card, passing it around, doing email introductions, hey, I've got a lender, I'm putting you in touch, this guy's a rock star, whatever it is, building those relationships and then leaning on them. Who knows who will come out of the woodwork to say, oh, hey, I am an electrician and this other guy's house I'm doing, they're trying to get rid of it. They might bring that to you. You want to try to, have that mentality, go out there and do it, but also like be humble, try to figure out from other folks what's going on.
What are
somebody's gonna listen to this podcast and they're gonna be like, oh, I can't wait to give this guy money.
Yes.
Hugh's gonna raise all this money.
You can just it'll be in the link. No.
What are some lean type principles, if you could, like just a few things that you think, like for a basic rental, like landlord, like what are some things you would look at? Say you're buying like a single family house right now, or small portfolio, like obviously like a hotel is a great example, but not super relevant to
90% of people.
Maybe 100% of our audience,
right?
99 point whatever. But what would you say, like for a normal like landlord, like what are some things that you think, like right off the top of your head, that you're like, oh, I would totally look for this or use this to help me out?
This is extremely, definitely go to real estate meetups. We didn't have one here. And actually, no, it was David, it was your Bigger Pockets one where they're like, I was too lazy to drive across the island, so I created one on my side of the island. And then I was like, there is no real estate Bigger Pockets thing here. So I just created it here.
I like that you say island in the middle of Missouri.
Well, no, because you were on your.
I know, I'm just giving you.
Missouri's an island. But definitely real estate meetups where you just go interact with people and you can learn so much, that's very actionable. As far as lean stuff goes, like why reinvent the wheel and try to learn everything? You might bump into someone that could be a friend or a mentor. Like I didn't know anything when I talked to you, like at all. I was like, I've been running deals. What do you think? And you're like, yeah, seems overwhelming. Yes. Good luck with that. But,
I tried to be encouraging, but I remember I was like, this is the first deal you're going to tackle. Like, I mean, the numbers work, man, but holy crap.
Well, and and then you end up hooking me up with a property manager. And so not trying to do it yourself. If you're scared or you don't know what's going on, there's a friend out there. There's someone who's done it before. There's Bigger Pockets. There's all of the content. There's Military to Millionaire. You can get on and ask questions just like so many of your audience already does to help you out. So definitely leverage other people's experience. That's definitely a lean one. Don't try to do it yourself. I ended up helping a buddy, he moved here on a Monday, and then we found him a house in a duplex with a VA loan, and he closed on a Thursday. I've been here 4 days, and he just used my Core 4. I just plugged into my process. He trusted me, and then I was like, hey, here's what's going on. Here's why. And then they just kind of went down through that. I did that because I knew him before and helped him out. But I feel like the real estate community specifically is like a lot of people are pretty open to helping because they remember what it was like, or it's relationship based. You never know if the guy on the other side of the table, might have a deal, 5 years from now or something like that. People remember the way you feel. So I don't know, be really nice and kind. Sounds very Missouri.
I'm not nice. It works for me. But I do like that idea. A lot of people, myself included, try to do things too much by themselves. Asking for help goes a long way. And if people won't help you, then that's probably because you're being a douchebag, or you're asking more than you're worth, which is a problem that a lot of people have. Which what you're saying is like, hey, look, be a good investment, and then people will invest in you.
Right. Lead with value. So like, I didn't know anything, but I knew I could bring my skills from manufacturing and be like, hey, did you know if you moved that coffee maker to the center of your office, the 11 people in your office would walk 160 miles less a year? Now, calculate the minimum wage that you would have paid all those people. You're welcome. And they'd be like, what? And like completely blown away. I was like, oh, don't get me started on email. So I try to help people. And I don't know anything. I'm here telling you guys, I barely know what I'm doing, and I just figure it out as I go along. But I'm not afraid because there's lots of other people out there that are willing to help. And when people ask me for help, as long as they haven't burned a bridge, then I'm going to help them out as best I can, because I don't know, I have a huge abundance mindset to try to help out anyone with a connection or a referral or passing on a deal or helping them work the numbers, teach a man to fish instead of giving him a fish. Hey, here's how you analyze deals. I wouldn't go there because of this thing. So
this is why Hugh and I get along, because I don't know what I'm doing and I just kind of fumble through things because I know people. So,
you become the connector. Hey, did you know this?
And that was kind of a joke, but Alex is not even going to pretend to smile or screw with me because he's just going to sit there and own it and make me think like, okay, fine. It's not true, Alex. But no, I think that's a really good point, right? Like when you're starting out, the real estate community, people will help you out if you just spend time getting to know people and focusing on how you can help them. And honestly, I think that's probably one of the best hacks you can utilize while getting into the real estate game. That's huge.
Right. And I like to what Alex was saying. You look at the Military to Millionaire page, and 40% of the page is like, I'm getting out in 3 months. What should I do? And they're asking the same thing over and over, while providing no value, and not even going back and looking at all the other content that you have that has answered that question 1,000 times. And you have the ability to go in and, pick people's brains. I reach out to you. Hey, can I do anything for you? Is there anything I can do? I think I talked to you the first time about lean, how I could help, even though I didn't know how I could help you. So being able to ask for help is a huge one, I think.
Yeah. Ask for help. And then, and like you said, I have people who will ask me for stuff, and I love helping people. I love it. But what they'll do is they'll find me along the way somewhere, and then they'll just go off and ask their question, which is good. And what you're encouraging, it's like, hey, look, go ask for help. But I will say, especially for people that pull out content, dude, David has so much content. Odds are he's already answered your question.
Right. Do some research first.
Yeah. I put content out so that I can help people, without having a conversation, so I can touch people for more than one at a time. And so, So if you're going to ask somebody for help, it's like, first, make sure they haven't already answered it. And if they have, and you still have a question, when you ask a more specific question, say, hey, I wanted to ask you this. I looked at this article here. I'm still not sure about this. Then somebody's like, dude, that guy took the time to look me up and like, look at my content. Let me give him a moment. Yeah. So even just like, before you go ask, just like, or if you get some information from somebody, just be like, hey, look, you helped me out. Thanks. Anything I can do for you? Like open that lines of communication on terms that are not just extractive. Even if you really can't add so much value, it's like, at least show that you're trying. At least show that you're trying, you know, that dude, Hugh has a beer delivery robot at his house.
Say, if you're watching the video, Hugh has a buddy sitting on the couch that you out of frame eating popcorn. Hugh finishes a beer, and the moment the beer disappears, a full beer just appears, handed over.
Efficiency, all about efficiency. Why don't you have
if this isn't lean systems just rolled all up into one? It's like, I've got this guy who's just, I paid this guy to sit here and hand me a beer the moment mine emptied. Maybe not paid, but actually if you guys watched the YouTube channel, you met Dan last week when he was they both sat on the couch and hung out with me.
No, but to Alex's point, I think, who was it? I don't know. It was someone's podcast and they were talking about, hey, or Alex, if I were to, hey, broke is a choice. I read this article, I saw this thing, and I had a question for you about this specific thing. And I tried to ask other people. You're just going to respond to that. Hey, this guy took, like you said, they took the time, they read my stuff, and they have a question further about, something that I already wrote or that you wrote. That's just, it shows that you did the basic, respect and
yeah, it's huge.
Showed that you put the effort first. And I think people see that.
So, yeah, I have a life rule that I say it all the time. Nobody's going to care more about you than you. Nobody's going to care more about your success. Nobody's sitting around going, how can I make Hugh more successful than me? Hey, let me call and make sure Hugh's doing his thing because he might not do it. Nobody cares about your success more than you. So when I run into people that care about their success less than they need to, and they want me to care more, I refuse. And so I'm like, look, if you have this question, you should find an answer. Oh, you didn't Google it. You didn't look for it. You just took somebody else's time to answer it for you. It's like, you want me to care more than you. I got you. I refuse.
Right. Here's one for about the lean stuff, right? Here's the way I basically got all my education. I went to Bigger Pockets episode 1, listened on 2x speed, 3 hours a day, crushed 6 podcasts a day for like 3 months, listened to everything. And then went on to the next one and then found the other thing and then reached out and consumed all this content. And then they, a lot of the really successful people out there would say the same thing, which is don't just be like, hey, you want to drive 2 hours and meet me for coffee and like ask me a question. It's like going out of the way instead of being like,
you would be amazed.
Instead of like, hey, I brought you this thing. I noticed in this book, you wrote this thing. And I was wondering, why didn't you do this other thing? Like, what made you make that choice? That kind of question would be like, hey, Alex, on this property, on your 24 units, why did you go with this color paint? Or why didn't you go with tankless water heaters? And you'd be like, oh, shit, like this guy did his research, cared enough to try. And, at least it's like actually, like you just know. And also, if you're going to be that guy to ask for help, do the research first. Don't be the guy who asks, because it's the quickest way to just get completely ignored.
Yeah.
Guys like Alex get bombarded, I'm sure.
If I have a piece of if I've written a piece of content that you're asking a question about, and it's like, you're asking me again, it's just one of those things where it's like, dude, I want to help you. But again, like I can't, I want to see that you're trying. And so again, it comes back to like, not that nobody wants to help you. It's that they want to see that you're a good person to invest their time into. And so if you're proactive and you look up these things and you try and you're like, I looked around, I couldn't find the answer. Can you help me out? Send me the link, whatever the case. If that's, sure. But yeah, people that are just like, I didn't think about any of that. I didn't know you had a website, Alex. I just ran to the email and took up your time. And especially when I get some of these. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, I mean, I love you, but come on.
Well, I think with Dave early on, I had a question about the VA loan. I was like, Dave, I already watched your video that you have here. Is there another article you can send me or other resources that you know about? I can go read up on this stuff. that I don't know about because I did the looking. I mean, that's probably going to be well more responsive for you guys to help people out.
Well, I was going to say the first time I
can also totally understand that you would read one of Dave's articles and still need further explanation. That I get. I totally get that.
Thanks, Alex. I appreciate you. I mean, we'll flip it, right? The first time we ever hung out, I gave you like a 20-minute block because I was like, I don't know who the heck this guy is. Sure, I'll meet you. You know, whatever. I mean, we had talked, but I was like super busy, and I was like, yes, but it's got to fit in exactly at this time at this place.
You have to come to me. I'll be here already.
And you showed up.
Other guy.
Yeah, that's true. You did sit down with the wrong person, but you sat down. We had our talk. We talked whatever. We left on good terms, you know, whatever. And then we stayed in touch, and now we're friends. We hang out, right? So like that's totally different than like a lot of people. If I'd been like, yo, I'd love to. The only thing is I got this 20-minute block at this coffee shop at this time, and they would have been like, oh, well, he doesn't have time for me. Like, never started the relationship. So, all right,
but can't be choosers, right?
You know, I mean, well, and I was on like a 1-week vacation home, so didn't have any time anyway. But all right, Hugh, I got 2 questions I ask every guest.
Okay.
First one is, if an 18, 19-year-old asks you for advice, what would be the one thing that you feel like they need to know?
Ooh. Is it going to be military specific or
whatever your life advice is?
Go buy the book by Scott Trench, Set for Life, and read that. Followed close second by Get a Prenup. And if there are red flags before you get married, there will be red flags. Getting married is not going to help. So that was 3 pieces of advice. But yes, mainly the first one.
No, but I love that because no one ever says that. And honestly, prenup and or red flags before marriage are probably 2 of the most relevant things you could tell
you know what?
A young veteran audience.
You're going to have a lot of people. Yeah. Scratch the first one, which, yes, go read Set for Life. But definitely for sure, if there are red flags before you get married, don't get married. They're going to still be there. Or work it out first. Work it out first.
I'd also put the caveat in there that don't take relationship advice from somebody who's just got through an obviously bitter divorce.
Well, it wasn't just.
Oh man!
Go on.
So
what was that?
So question number 2, you might have already answered, is what's one resource you recommend to anyone getting started in real estate or business or life in general? You said Set for Life. So what's another resource that you would give to anyone?
I would 1,000% if you have a business mindset or anything. And if you're looking to invest in real estate, which a lot of your audience is, you are running a business. You're not owning a passive asset. I mean, you can get it there, but you need to think of it like you're running a business. What got me all my automation and all my whatever fancy pants, like it's easy doing business, was a book called 2 Second Lean by Paul Akers. And that book right there literally 180'd the trajectory of my entire existence. And it was as fundamental to how to do anything as, let's say, you know, a lot of your listeners will understand, Rich Dad, Poor Dad rearranges the way your mind thinks about, like, you know, owning assets versus liabilities. Like, that's a pretty big shift in thinking for most people when they read it. I'd say it's that way for how to do business or anything. So that's a huge one there.
I like it. Yeah, it's actually on my reading list for sure. All right, Hugh, where can people get a hold of you if they want to reach out, ask questions, or, you know, be the OPM for your next
so
really
like money,
crazy deal?
Mail it to 555. No, so I have a YouTube channel, and it's called Hugh Carnahan, and I teach lean, which sounds extremely boring, but it's super fun, and I try to make it silly, and I'm trying to do like a real estate finance focus. So there's that.
Yeah, I'll make sure I tag that.
And he's wacky. I watched a little bit of that YouTube channel.
He teaches YouTube in Speedos and shit.
That's right. If anyone wants to laugh, and you know, there's one called
the David Green one.
Not David Green gives an analogy, and I also have a one. I'm just making fun of the VP guys. Not Tarl Yarber takes you through crappy house is a playlist I have. and I just take you through crack houses in my area.
It's entertaining to say that.
And I spelled his name wrong, and then he commented on one of my videos and was like, "You spelled my name wrong."
Love it. All right, brother. Hey, this has been fun. Always a pleasure. Looking forward to moving back and being able to hang out. And I know we spoke about it. I'm getting numbers this week, so I may have something that we're going to end up working on together. So
come get drunk.
Yeah, there's the voice in the background about alcohol and hot tubs, which is basically my love language. So, you know,
they should rewrite the book.
Yeah. Hot tubs, drunken hot tubbing, love language number 6. All right, dude. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for listening to another episode about my journey from military to millionaire. If you liked it, be sure to visit FromMilitaryToMillionaire.com/podcast to subscribe to future podcasts. While you're there, we'd love for you to rate the show, give us a review on iTunes. Now get out there and take action.